sparkling midwinter day, we travelled west through the Hunter Valley in New South Wales, passing the towns of Wollombi and Laguna towards the Yengo National Park. Our destination was the Garden of Eden, a tranquil, off-grid property which has recently significantly upgraded its standalone power infrastructure. Hello and welcome to an Off-Grid Energy Australia case study. I'm Damien Griffith, your host, and we're out at Boree in New South Wales, out near the beautiful Yengo National Park. And today we're with Kay, who has a lovely property out here.
Hey, Dame. How you going?
Yeah, good. Good to see you again.
You too.
We're going to start a series of case studies over the next period of time, and we thought we'd start out here with Kay because it's a lovely place, and we want to talk a little bit more about some of the challenges that went on in this particular property. Now, Kay, you were already off-grid, and you were running into some issues.
Well, we started off with a weekender. So the system was built, the old system was built for a weekender, and then we got excited and started to build more buildings because we're an off-grid retreat. Mm-hmm. Of course, we want the golden age, so then we never had enough power. Mm-hmm. Plus, we never had enough sun.
Right. So
our big issue was the sun.
So obviously this is a thing that happens in a lot of properties, that you start off as a weekender or you start off in the shed, and then things start happening, and there's growth in the property, there's growth in the plans, and then start to run into issues with power. But not only that, you're here in effectively what's a horseshoe canyon. Particularly in winter, we've got a very low angle of sun. So you were running out of power because you had an undersized system, but then you also had low inputs.
No sun. By 2 o'clock or even earlier, where we had them before, we'd have no sun. We'd only have 3 hours of sun in full-on winter. That's right. Which is not good for solar.
So what we did is, when we first started having our discussions, obviously this site was a particular challenge. So we tended site, and really when I walked around here, there was really only one logical option, and that's right where we're standing now. And that it's a little bit elevated so that we got some northern aspect and were able to accumulate a little bit more solar throughout the year, especially in the winter months. And there was a big challenge here for you because this is on the side of a hill. It's quite a steep hill into the canyon. You had to get some pretty substantial earthworks done. So this is all cut and fill.
Yep, that's correct.
So if you have a look this way, you can see the cut into the sandstone hill here, and you can see how significant that is. And then that fill was used and compacted as far as we could this way, because we knew the further we came this way for solar, brought it further away from the mountain. And today, while we're standing here, it's probably only about 1:30, and you can see the long shadow is already starting to creep in. So it was incredibly important to keep the solar away from that end and bring it this way, and that's already proven to be helpful.
Oh, absolutely. So June, July for us is our winter. We're 2 o'clock, we've lost sun, but we've got sun by 7:30, 7 o'clock on the panels.
So this is a bit of an extreme site with regard to solar access. As we mentioned, it's in this canyon, and the orientation's a little bit northeast, not north. We tried to angle it to north as much as possible, but we're limited because of the mountainside. But here we are, we're not even 2 o'clock in winter. We're coming very close to the solstice, only a few days before the solstice. So this is about as bad as it's going to get, but we've lost our sun. So we're basically at 100% charge, which was the benefit of lithium, because they pump up the charge really quick and gather that early from the early morning sun, because you get good sun from about 7 o'clock in the morning here. But by before 2 o'clock, we're in shade, and you can have a look. There's a couple of trees over here, and it's not only just the trees, it's that the angle of the sun starts to hit behind the panel, and that won't be just unique to winter either. That will also happen in summer, where the sun will set behind the mountain, and it'll have a shorter day because of the orientation and the height of that mountain there. So some sites are just like that. Some people have just got a beautiful open paddock and you've got full aspect and no shade. Others don't, and then we have to account for that in design. So we knew that there was going to be a limitation. We knew that there was potential more diesel use in winter, and we also knew that we needed to make sure that there was enough battery storage, excess battery storage, to get through the nighttime periods to be able to handle the longer night, because we've got a long period now for this property to get through without inputs from the sun. You have noticed, so you have had some loads recently, some increased loads from activity, plus you've also had a little bit of cloudy weather and reduced solar input.
Yep.
Now, that has led to a few challenges. So you went really good through summer. We had this put in last spring. You've gone through summer reasonably well. Everything's going quite well.
Yep.
Inherently coming into winter, and this is a common thing for a lot of people, you had your first challenge recently.
Oh, absolutely. If you're in summer, everything's running perfectly, of course, because you've got sun for so long, early in the morning. So you don't see those challenges. I guess when winter comes around, then you know that what your solar's really doing. We had a few cloudy days and a few people in house, so lots of different air conditioners and loads on, I guess. And then what happened is the generator actually had been coming on and it ran out of fuel, but Kay didn't know. So, because it's up the hill now, we can't hear it, which is beautiful. But those are the things that are simple things, but when it did shut down, everybody goes into stress mode because it's like being in the city and no power, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and this is actually it's a common scenario, and because we design good systems at Off Grid Energy Australia, we go through a quality process, and we get to a point where we can be confident in the system. That often means that people can have a system running for months or years without any issue or having to pay much attention to it, and they don't really engage with their system too much. One of the things I've long said to my customers is it's sort of good to have a crisis sometime in the first year. And when I say crisis, it means something doesn't go quite right, where you have to pay attention, you have to get out your manual, and you have to recalibrate. You have to read it, because everyone goes, oh, that's good, chuck it in the corner. So you get this thing out, you read it, you have to go through a shutdown procedure, a startup procedure. These are things that you should probably do straight away when you get your system, is really familiarise yourself, but a lot of people really don't. And you sort of, this little thing is a catalyst. So it was a pretty simple thing, really, was that your generator was running, but you end up having a breaker.
Well, that's it. And I think if you don't actually physically do it, you can read it as much as you want, but when you're in the moment and it's in front of you, because actually the whole system has the same graph on it telling you exactly what to do, but you'll, in that moment that you're stressing, you'll read that 5 times.
And it doesn't compute.
And it's like, all I had to do was press the button for 3 seconds and everything would have been good, but that whole part of no power.
So what we will do, what we're also proposing to do, is that we'll start bringing some more technical bulletins online, and we'll discuss these exact things, so that there's a reference point for our customers and potentially future customers to be able to look at that and understand some of those things, so that it's less stressful if it comes up for them. So in this case, main breaker was tripped. Now, if Kay had have refueled the generator, and the generator and the system used the 2-wire from the SP Pro to communicate with the generator to turn the generator on, it will turn on and there'll be still no input, as in there's no power. Even if your SP Pro is on, there'll be no power going to the system. You can't register anything. So this is just running away with no load on it because that breaker's not on. And that's a common mistake. It doesn't matter whether it's a Selectronic system or a Victron system or an SMA system. The same thing will happen if this thing can't feed that power through. So generators, especially in winter, pay attention to them, get familiar with your system and the startup procedures and your shutdown procedures, but particularly what to do with your generator in those sort of situations, so you don't stress out when the shutdown happens, which at some time in your off-grid life, it's likely to happen for some of them. So you've been through that. We overcome it. But one of the things that you found in that scenario was that your generator was running, and you're saying, "Why is my generator running for so long?" And you get frustrated and you go up and turn it off. This is another thing that people do potentially in winter, and so what that can do as well is that the generator is programmed, the system is programmed to do specific things at specific times. And it means that if the system hasn't reached a certain state of charge over a certain period, then it's from the sun, then it requires that charge to come from somewhere else, and the generator will say, okay, I'm going to give it that charge now. Gets it up to do a 100% state of charge, keeps it there. This is a common thing that happens with lead acid, but it can also happen with lithium systems, and we'll talk more in a moment about the actual infrastructure. But one of the key things is you don't touch it.
No.
Isn't it? You've learnt now. You just leave it.
Yeah, just leave it do its thing. I think the best thing was, though, I did have contact with the main office, which is a really good thing, because you got help 24/7, and that's a major thing when you're off the grid and there's no one else but you. I think that's really important, to be able to have contact with someone to get you back online, and a simple process of a call, and it was up and running.
It was up and running. So you have your app. We can have a look at how that app.
Sorry, done.
We're using the app now, and so you can keep an eye on that, and then so that the service department can also refer to that app. We can also log in via those mechanisms, depending on what technology we're using. Being yours is a Selectronic system, so we've got Selectronic Live, and you can get into the back end of that system. We can check out what's going on. That can be helped to troubleshoot. But you, as the end user or the owner of the system, is able to use that all the time and view things. You travel a lot. You just said you were in Egypt recently, and I know that you were in Scotland last year, was it?
Yeah.
Well, now you can see exactly what's going on. Doesn't matter where you are.
Exactly, and now that I can see what's going on in the app, you can't. There's not a lot of details there, but it's still handy to be able to tell whoever's back here how to turn and update the system.
There's enough there for you to view. So that was some of the challenges. Let's go back to some of the positives. You obviously, over the summer months, you've had different activity here, and you've really tested it out. You had your spa going, you had your air cons running.
That's right, Dane. We've got like 6 air conditioners and a spa. We're off the grid, but the golden age is the go. Everybody wants a coffee machine, everybody wants an air conditioner, and we have a conference room as well. So when everyone comes in, we got everyone wanting coffee or everyone turning on an air conditioner, we still got power.
Yeah, and that was
that was pretty awesome.
And that was part of the design process. And when we're looking at each of the consultants that work for Off Grid Energy Australia, myself and the other guys in other states, who all do a wonderful job at looking at a situation and providing infrastructure that's going to suit, that isn't going to cut a corner. Because the worst thing you can do is not go through a profiling exercise, looking at your loads, understanding what are you doing now, what are we expecting to do in the future, and providing not only for your daily demand in summer and winter, which could be different, but also the peak demand.
You definitely have to be proactive in the system, so that you can plan in some way if it is cloudy, and in winter that you're not going to get power past, you're not going to get sun on the solar panels after this. You get in and you do your jobs early in the morning, so that system can load up as much as it can to be able to provide for the rest of the day. Right. So you have to be proactive.
You haven't been through, we're only a certain part of the way through the first year of having your system, and you're already learning. And so this is the thing, until it's actually in, you don't really know, oh, hold on, so here we are, look, it's the start of the long shadow. So in another part of the valley, or someone else, even in winter, they could have good sun until 4:30. But you know that it's going to be. So the system's trying to reach that 100% state of charge level at that point. But then you're already going to be using your storage, basically from 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, around that winter solstice period. So it means Kay is going to learn. She's adapted to the system, like she said, doing things, doing your washing, doing your cooking, using your high load stuff in the morning, and then taking the pressure off, preferably in the evening. So I think on that note, maybe we go and have a look at the infrastructure and have a look at what we're doing over here behind the system, and some of the improvements that you're about to make as well with the new roof. Let's go and have a look at some of this stuff. So these frames are going to be going over this equipment shed. So the equipment shed, you scored it off a guy locally, didn't you? Like
Yeah, it's an old shipping container at the end of an old shipping container.
So it's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but it was functional.
It's functional.
And we did. There wasn't a lot of room up here, but it also meant that when the panels go hard up on it, it's provided a little bit of shade, but it's also allowed for a vehicle to be able to pass down this side. So we had this limited amount of space for everything. But that little room there is actually quite hot, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the idea here, so you've put an air conditioner in there, a portable air conditioner.
Yeah, but it does have that direct sun right in summer.
So it's still fighting that. So this week,
yep,
these will be put up, and then you create effectively a new roof that goes over the equipment area and then over the generator. And this is something that I encourage my customers to do as a general rule, because it does create an air buffer between that first roof and that second roof, and takes a lot of the heat out of that room. Makes a huge difference.
That's right. Yeah.
So let's have a look down here. This is good work here. It's solid piece. Did you do all this yourself?
Yeah.
She likes to get in and have a good go. Kay did a really excellent job for the amount of infrastructure that was needed to happen here, and there was instructions, and she was executing those instructions, and I was really impressed at how it happened. You know, sometimes things get lost in translation, but we're pretty good at communicating. But you were translating that stuff and making it happen on the ground, and the best results come from those sort of interactions. And it's quite impressive where we've ended up on such a challenging site. So the next phase, obviously, is getting this roof overhead, and look how it's going to be quite high up over the generator. I've got a similar setup at my place where the roof sits a couple of metres above the generator, and because it's open on either side.
And then the fuel tank can come up too, see, and the extra fuel tank just in case. Then you don't have to be worried about whether it did have fuel today.
So you're going to get you're going to make sure it's topped up. Yeah. How many litres does this particular Kubota hold?
70 litres.
It's only 70 litres, yeah. So it's not a huge tank. So you're going to get an extended fuel tank. How much will that hold? Do you know?
Oh, the one I got is 800 litres. So I mean, I don't want to go through that ever again.
800 litres, you'll run for a year. Yeah. Really, on a well-designed system, generators are a generator back up to the system. So it's going to assist the system for peak load support. And it also assists the system if you're in shortfall because your batteries reach a low state of charge. But it shouldn't be running, in winter it might run a little bit more, but it should only be running maybe a couple of % of the overall energy demand. Well,
the summer I had to check the battery because it wasn't running.
It wasn't running. You don't need it. That's right. So across the year, it averages out. If it's raining a lot, it might run 4 or 5 days in a row, and you might go through 20 litres of diesel, and then it might not run for 6 or 8 weeks. So it all averages out across different seasons and across different years. So that's good. It's up on a nice slab, so it keeps that out of the weather. Once this is covered, it will also allow that to not have as much weather on it, which will extend the life of the Kubota, and so it kills a few birds with one stone, really, having the temperature and the shade over the equipment area, and covering over your generator as well. Really good.
And some down pipes on your shed so you can wash your panels.
Your panels.
With a tank.
So. No, we leave our bloopers in. We like that sort of stuff. So this is something you put in afterwards.
Yep. Just for the air conditioner.
Just for the air conditioner to be able to draw through. But you can, even in winter, you can feel that warmth coming through the roof. So when the height of summer comes over and that's right over the top, it would have been pretty hot in there, which can cause the ambient, the ambient temperature is obviously rising, and then your battery temperatures can rise, and then not able to function as effectively. Same with this electronic, the inverter charges and the Fronix, the solar inverter. So system specs up here, 2 SP Pros, 482s, which are 7.5 kilowatts per unit, which gives us 15 kilowatts of continuous power and 22 kilowatts of peak power, 30-minute rating. So Selectronic have got a great peak power upside, so that it makes them a great machine for the situations where you might have that bit of extra power needed at certain times. Two Fronius Primo 6s, 13 Power Plus EK batteries, 52 kilowatt hours of batteries in a 20 rack Power Plus cabinet. Leaves us 7 extra slots here for battery expansion. Very convenient part of having lithium, unmanaged lithium particularly. You can just slot your new batteries in, turn them on, and do a settings update, and that will give you the extra storage if it's required. You've got Select Live down here, which is your monitoring system, and that is on this system. It has been connected. It is hardwire connected, but it also has the Wi-Fi connectivity if you're close enough to a router. We recommend getting them Wi-Fi hardwire connected, because the hardwire connection just gives us the more stability for monitoring, and that helps for app use and for our ability to be able to service any issues. So here's the app live now on Kay's phone. You might be able to just come in on that. And we're just under 100%, so it hasn't quite triggered float. There's 1.2 kilowatts coming in because it's probably restricting some solar because it doesn't need a lot because the batteries are so high. And even so, we're starting to run with that shadow, as we know, out there. So pretty close to full, and you can sort of view all that on your app. There's your system specs there as well. Okay. So you can track your data over time with your graphs on Select Live as well, and it's pretty handy. These things are improving over time. It's not, there's more that can be done with all the apps, but Victron and Selectronic are the two main apps that we use for our infrastructure, and they're sufficient for purpose for folks to be able to monitor their systems. So let's just jump out and have a look at the solar itself. We've seen the front side. Interesting to have a look from the back side here. This is Clenergy Solar Terrace 2. Part of the challenge here is getting the depth, and on all sites is getting the depth to be able to sink your legs. They need to get down to about 1.5 meters. So if you are having issues because you're hitting rock, you can make it more difficult to be able to use Solar Terrace 2, and then you might have to use Solar Terrace 3, which requires a slab on ground, and it's a different mounting system. And we do that sometimes in these really sandstony type of areas, which can happen out here. I mean, this is the sort of stuff you can run into pretty shallow. This is big sandstone floaters. And if it wasn't sort of an area that was fill, compacted fill, we might have run into issues here and had to do this differently. But it all worked out just fine. They have to go to those depths and be filled with a certain amount of concrete for wind loading. That's it's an engineered rating that Clenergy provide. And we have 40 Wenco 375 watt panels there that turn out just under 15 kilowatts of solar. Pretty impressive. The Kubota generator is a 11 kVA. So the Kubota was an existing generator that Kay had. Generally, if we are going to size a generator for a system, it will meet or exceed the inverter charger output rating. So it would be bigger. I would recommend it generally to be bigger than 15 kilowatts, because that's the size of the continuous output rating of the inverter chargers. And that means that if there's peak load required in the house and there's a low state of charge in the batteries, this generator has enough capacity to charge the batteries and have excess power for the peak load. If you size your generator too small, it takes longer to charge your batteries, and it doesn't have the ability to supply power to a load and charge the battery simultaneously. So I think Kay will be fine. We're running with it, but you might find slightly longer generator run times than otherwise would be expected. All right, so that's your system spec. So we've seen an amazing off-grid system, and we just happen to be in the Garden of Eden. I mean, look at this. It is a fantastic little canyon. Got its limitations, but when you are in a place like this, we have to design for it from a solar point of view. You are the Garden of Eden though, okay? So tell us a little bit more, gardenofelenaustralia.com.
That's correct.
If you want to check it out and you want to come and visit.
And stay in an off-grid retreat. We do have accommodation here, and we have 2 beautiful sacred sites that you can spend time, and there's nothing better than the afternoon, no noise, no power, no overhead lines, and just enjoying the elements.
It's
a healing in
it's
itself.
quiet, isn't it? It's just being in the silence.
Yeah.
You can't hear a distant highway or anything. You might get a plane flying over,
Yeah.
but it's a quiet place. But you do energy work here,
Yeah, that's right.
and it's amazing
And we've got the beautiful.
pyramid, and you've got other sacred areas around it.
That's right. You can come and you can actually go and meditate in the copper pyramid or the stone circle down the front when you come in, and you're in walking distance on location from the retreat.
It's really awesome. Maybe with just as we wrap up, is there anything that you would suggest to people that are maybe already off-grid or thinking about going off-grid about your experiences of being an off-grid? I mean, you've been off-grid for a while,
Yeah.
and you've had now smaller systems and now an upgraded system. What are the sort of things that you'd like to share in regard to being off-grid?
I think it's a personal choice of how far you want to go with it as well. But if you really want to be in the golden age and live off the grid, with a few of the luxury items that we can have these days, because we all like air conditioning, we all like our coffee machines and whatever, is do your homework when you're buying it. Really put down the wattage of everything. Because the main thing is that go through everything, every piece of equipment that you have, write that down so that you get a good average on whether the whole place is going to handle that.
Yep.
And don't think outside of the box. Like, I think that sometimes you really push me with, okay, you have to think about this, or because you're the professional and you know it, you work with it every day. Is just be open to look at things a different way. And I mean, living off the grid is looking at things a different way. And I do recommend the company. Off-grid energy was great to me, worked efficiently, quickly, we got it done. Everyone was happy because we got it in just before Christmas. Boys worked a bit of overtime to get that in for me, which is wonderful.
It was one of those ones, wasn't it?
It was under the pump before Santa come, exactly. And, you know, they're great communicators. Like I say, you got backup, and the things for me is backup system as well. They were one of the choices that I do because I'm off the grid on my own. I want to know that I can get power and someone's there to help me, you know.
Absolutely.
And you got the office, and if it's a really emergency, you've got a 24-hour number. So
Yeah, exactly.
I can't recommend that. That's really, that was a really high priority for me. So,
Good. Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's very nice to hear. And Kay is another happy off-grid customer out here in her Garden of Eden, living it up.
Yeah.
And we can call her a professional off-gridder.
Yes.
And an off-gridder that isn't cutting corners, because you've got all your mod cons. You might be remote, but like you said, you got your spa, you got your air cons, and you got your stuff going on. And this is more and more the case now with our customers, where, you know, in an increasingly electric world, we need to have good quality designs for these sort of properties. So we will call it a day, and it's the cold is creeping down the mountain.
The shadows are creeping in, but guess what? The fire's on, the power's on, the grid's still working, batteries are full, they're afloat right now, so we're absorbing all that free energy from the universe. So
sounds good.
Thanks,
Kay. Awesome. Over and out from the Garden of Eden.